Welcome to Modern Warriors, the 9/11 generation. I'm your host, Pete Hegseth. Thank you for joining us. Sitting with me are men who answered the call. 4 men and patriots whose lives were changed, like so many, forever after the tragic events, the attacks on 9/11. And they made the decision to put their country first, risk their lives to defend our nation. Meet them with me right now.
We literally set up our talk in our whole operations center right in Battery Park City, and we operated out of there. Literally sleeping on the ground or in the back of a Humvee or whatever for the next about 8 weeks.
Army Lieutenant Colonel Joe Whaley. Whaley was on site for the events of 9/11, served in combat in Iraq, and is now currently the battalion commander of the historic New York City National Guard Unit, the Fighting 69.
First time I ever came to New York was 15 years after 9/11. Came to Ground Zero, and I instantly knew that everything I did was worth it.
We also have Ryan Birdman Parrott, a former Navy SEAL and founder of Sons of the Flag. Ryan enlisted in the Navy after watching the Twin Towers fall on 9/11.
I didn't want to be 70, 80 years old and say that I didn't do anything and that I wasn't there.
Also joining us is Army combat veteran Graham Allen. Graham was a freshman when 9/11 happened and joined the military when he was just 18 years old.
Someone instantly said, Osama bin Laden. This is Al-Qaeda. This is a terrorist attack. This is not an accident. Everything just changed. We're definitely going to war, guys.
And last but not least, former SEAL Team 6 member who killed Osama bin Laden, Rob O'Neill. After 17 years of service, he deployed over a dozen times, participating in over 400 combat missions. He's one of the country's most highly decorated Navy SEALs. He's a combat vet with 2 Silver Stars and 4 Bronze Stars with Valor, just to name a few. Gentlemen all, welcome to Modern Warriors, the 9/11 generation. What an amazing spot. We've done a number of these, as you know, Modern Warriors specials, none on more hallowed ground than right here in where the North Tower stood. And I want to put you guys on that day. Everybody at some level remembers where they were. You took the next step. That first day, 8:14 in the morning, it's a beautiful day here in New York City, whether you were here or watching it on the television. By 8:14, the first plane was hijacked. 30 minutes later, Flight 11 hits this North Tower. 15 minutes after that, Flight 175 hits the South Tower. Flight 77 at 9:37 hits the Pentagon. At 9:59, just a few moments later, the South Tower collapses. 4 minutes later, Flight 93 lets roll, Shanksville, Pennsylvania. And about a half an hour after that, the North Tower collapses. 2.5 hours. It changed our nation forever, changed all of your lives. I'm just going to start simple. Where were you? What was your reaction that morning? Graham, I'll start with you.
Well, for me, first of all, I'm still trying to figure out why I'm here after hearing everybody's stories of what you've done, being surrounded by you amazing individuals. I think I'm the youngest one here too. I was a freshman in high school, growing up in rural Mississippi. I was in Mississippi Studies class. As you can imagine, what a great educational class that was. And I'll never forget it. We had our principal, Mr. Putnam, and he would always call us young people. That's how he would always address us. So we're sitting there in class, and he comes over the intercom and he says, "Young people, I hate to interrupt your learning today, but something is happening in our country." He knew after the first plane hit, Mr. Putnam knew that something was going on. And he said, "Something is happening that I feel like is affecting our country. Everybody needs to stop what you're doing and turn your TVs on right now." And then by the time I got to second period, the second tower had gone down. And I remember seeing Coach Lee. Coach Lee was in a first sergeant in an MP unit, in a guard unit that I had no idea anything about at the time. And I remember being a 14-year-old kid, just being stupid. And I talk about this in my book of how, me and my friends, there was a glitch in the camera and it makes this weird noise, and me and my friends are in the back and we start giggling at this noise that it makes. And I remember Coach Lee, being a first sergeant, turning around, and for the first time in my life, another man looking at me as a man and saying, "Do you realize what has just happened? Do you have any clue how this changes everything?" And I remember that moment for the rest of my life. As the years go by, over half of our teaching staff goes off to war. They were all in the Guard, had no idea as a kid. And it changed my life forever. I'd always respected the military, never in a million years thought that I would join. And then in 2005, I joined, and then that's when I go to Iraq during the surge under President Bush. So
we'll get to that for sure. Joe, you're here in New York City. Talk to us about it directly.
So, unlike Graham, I'm probably the oldest one here. So,
and
yeah.
you're still in charge. This is, by the way, our first in-uniform appearance on Modern Warriors.
hey,
So I love it.
right.
Live battalion commander right now in the National Guard.
So I had just gotten off active duty about a year and a half earlier, right? And I was taking over my family business. My parents own a chocolate company. So I was in Long Island City, Queens, and my mom calls me. I'm a little hungover. I'm 25 years old. The Giants played Denver the night before. It's early in the morning. I'm trying to get up and do some work and whatever. And I remember picking up that phone, and she says, I think something really is going on. I thought she was sort of batshit crazy, to be completely honest with you. I thought she was over-exaggerating, whatever. But from Long Island City, I mean, we went up on the roof, and you could see the smoke, and you could see whatever. Immediately, I realized that something had gone really, really wrong, and literally started walking on the other side of into Manhattan from Queens over to 59th Street Bridge, because we were right there. So it was one of those really unique situations, unlike typical domestic ops, whether it be a hurricane or whatever for the Guard, where nobody had to call anybody. You had people showing up at the armory that hadn't been in the unit for years, looking to volunteer and get involved in whatever it was. And I guess we got down here, we got our gear and all our vehicles and got down here probably about 11:30, 12 in the afternoon, and then it was
11:30, 12, so half an hour after
we literally set up our TOC and our whole operations center right in Battery Park City, and we operated out of there, literally sleeping on the ground or in the back of a Humvee or whatever for the next about 8 weeks. It was just a very, very unique time in history.
What were those first moments like?
It was crazy. I mean, there was smoke, you couldn't see anything, the dust was all over the place. And I will tell you that your first initial instinct was just to cordon off the area as best we could, because nobody knew whether there were going to be other attacks, or all the intel at the time was, are there going to be hot dog carts that blow up? I mean, what's next? Taxis? I mean, nobody really knew what was going on. So we cordoned off the area, tried to get as many people out to safety as we could, and then set up for the next phase of this thing, which was the search and recovery piece.
Brian, you enlisted because of 9/11, if I
right.
recall. Talk to me about that moment and that decision.
Yeah, so sitting in class, I mean, I was failing that class I was actually sitting in, along with probably almost every other one, right?
What was the class?
Keyboard. Keyboard, which is, really good for the military. But I'm failing, and I'm failing everything. I'm going nowhere in life. And I remember our teacher getting up and running, because you had the tube TV back then where you had a remote and you had to turn on that big TV, and he ran to the TV, which we weren't allowed to watch TV in school. And that was scary enough, like, what's happening? And they turned it on, and I remember saying, this is a possible terrorist attack. And I had been toying around with the idea of joining the military. One of my teachers influenced me, who was a Vietnam veteran, Marine Corps. And that was the defining moment in my life when I realized that, wow, this just happened. So many people were just killed or murdered. I can't fix this, but maybe I can be part of the solution. And I got furious. So I stood up, I left this class, and I went right to the recruiter station, and I said, hey, whatever it takes, I want to get in the program. I want to go in the Navy, hopefully to be a SEAL.
You left class that day?
That minute.
That minute, and went straight to a recruiting station?
Absolutely. Called my parents later.
There it is, yeah.
Wow, no, I mean, there's plenty of us that maybe a week later or a day later or whatever, in that moment you knew.
I knew.
Wow.
I think we all did. No matter if you're a freshman, you were already in.
I think we all knew that things had changed, and that everybody's life had been instantly set on a different course that day than we originally thought. None of us knew, even getting us to these seats right now where we are right now, it all started that day. And so it's really crazy to think about that.
Rob, what a different place to be. You're in the teams. 9/11 happened.
I was at SEAL Team 2, and I was actually on my 3rd deployment overseas. And we'd done some stuff. I had just gotten back to the unit in Germany from Kosovo. And Kosovo and Bosnia were like the two biggest things going on. We would take down some ships in the Persian Gulf, but they were smuggling either illegal oil or dates. And we weren't doing much. And we had a joke we're never going to go to war. And people now, they say train like you fight because you want to, keep it real. We were at a point, because there was going to be no more wars, we would say train like you train as a joke. We're just going to train really hard, train all day, train all night, go drinking, train the next day. So we just got back from Kosovo. We had, 40 straight days in Kosovo, and we were doing reconnaissance, just making sure, seriously, like watching people lean against light poles for 4 hours on, 4 hours off. It's like training to make a better hide site. How can we be better snipers, observers? Got back to Germany. We're getting ready for a trip to somewhere in Europe to train with other special forces. I was in the operations center typing an email to somebody, and they went to breaking news on the television, and a plane has hit the North Tower. So we looked over, and you see the fire, and everyone's kind of saying, well, that's a big building. And that's a really big hole. That's a lot of flames going up there. What about the people above it? So we're really concerned about this accident. How are the people going to get out of Windows on the World? Boy, we got to say some prayers to those firefighters, because regardless, they're going to go up to the top. They're going to put this out, and we're sitting there talking, and then boom, another explosion. And someone instantly said, Osama bin Laden. This is Al-Qaeda. This is a terrorist attack. This is not an accident. Everything just changed. We're definitely going to war, guys.
They knew it right there. It was Osama bin Laden. It was Al-Qaeda.
It was within seconds. It wasn't me, but someone said it, because we'd heard about bin Laden before, obviously, with the same bombing here in '93,
Yep.
Khobar Towers, Al-Qaeda. But it wasn't he's never really going to get us. And we kind of lulled to sleep. We should have thought they came to the towers in '93. Unlike us, they're not going to forget about us.
Yeah.
We'll forget about them. They don't forget about us. Just because you don't think you're at war with someone doesn't mean they're not at war with you. And that's when we realized, and someone smarter than me in there said, this is Al-Qaeda, this is Osama bin Laden, and that's it. Everything changed. Everything changed. We're no longer going to go on our good time trip to wherever it was in Europe. We might not even go back home. We might just go right to wherever they are. Is it Sudan? Is it Afghanistan? Now the smart people, like I always said, I'm smart enough to carry a sledgehammer and a gun. There are people behind the scenes that are really smart about everything, and they're going to find him. So it's one of those places where they knew he was, and our mission set just changed forever. Our children's lives just changed.
You mentioned that lull. Guys, I want to put you back as best you can to September 10th, 2001. Could we imagine the terror that was awaiting us? I looked up headlines from the morning of September 11th, which means they were the news of September 10th. In the New York Times, it was about dress codes versus a sea of bare flesh. Or in a nation of early risers, morning TV is a hot market. Turns out Fox and Friends was on the... And then they were talking about the mayoral race here in New York City, stem cells reviving the economy, and it wasn't Al-Qaeda, it wasn't Afghanistan. Rob, you mentioned you're training to train.
Train like you train. And something we've noticed too, even now, is we get lulled into a sense of complacency. And complacency is what get you killed. Boredom will get you killed. And there's a thing called the normalcy bias, which is just because something bad is not happening doesn't mean it won't. However, 95% of the stuff you're worrying about doesn't happen anyway, so don't waste your time worrying. But sometimes it's not what you expect. Think back to February, we're talking about the Democratic primary. Who's going to win? Elizabeth Warren, Joe Biden, Bernie Sanders. We're worried about that. Thursday night, boom, coronavirus. It's not the stuff you're worried about, the stuff you're not worried about, but you can't get complacent with anything, but don't worry about everything. But right now, we can't get complacent because now we're all wearing masks most of the time. And right,
no comment, Rob.
But you're worried about that. Does that mean Al-Qaeda's not watching us now?
Sure.
And that's why it's important for the country to come back together, because again, we're left or right, we're all their target, and they could be using this. We don't know. It should bring us back to not necessarily a 9/10, but a 9/12.
We're going to get to 9/12
yes.
for sure, because I think that is an important, that unity we felt that day after. But I do think here we are. I mean, next year's the 20th anniversary. Right, yeah. It's 19 years. Does it feel like we could move back into a 9/10 mindset of that we're forgetting? I mean, kids graduating from high school today weren't alive.
I have no idea.
When 9/11 happened.
I remember when I was on my last duty assignment was recruiting, and I remember when it hit that mark where we were realizing we were enlisting kids that weren't even born when 9/11 happened. For me, it was much different. The new Xbox was coming out, so I was super excited about that.
Actually, that was one of the headlines that I looked at.
I told you.
The new Xbox
we were deployed.
was coming out.
We love Xbox on deployment.
That's what I'm saying. The new Xbox was getting ready to come out, so I was super pumped. But for me, 9/10, if I have to put it into anything, I remember the feeling of just being a teenager, of that invincibility almost, right? you know, and not just that teenage invincibility, the blessing invincibility that we all feel from being and living in America, right? Like we all feel like we're untouchable. We all feel like nothing bad's ever going to happen.
America's almost inevitable.
Yes, exactly. And so 9/11, when 9/11 happened, it was not just this horrific, devastating attack. It was this true, like, dropping of the veil for all Americans that no, we're not invincible. No, this is the real world. And no, there are evil people out there. And again, whether people enlisted in the military or became cops or firefighters afterwards or didn't do any of those things, it changed everybody's mindset to realize that there are bigger things out there than what we were currently concerned with.
Joe, you went to West Point, were on active duty, then got into the Guard in 2000.
Yep.
Probably thinking the world is quiet.
I am basically laser focused on my civilian job on Chocolate Works, right? I'm laser focused there. I have about 9 months left in my Guard career. I'm bored out of my mind in the Guard. There is nothing happening with the Guard. Like Rob said, I mean, he's on a SEAL team and he doesn't think that they're going anywhere. I certainly will tell you. We'll tell you the state of the Guard at the time was not very high. Right?
Yeah,
I mean, we were at all-time lows. You know, it was still,
you're out drinking beer in the back somewhere.
We were hanging out. I mean, there wasn't a shot in hell that I ever thought we were deploying anywhere, right? And then the next day we're down here at Ground Zero, and that changed my mind because while one day I thought I had 9 months left and I was getting out of the military altogether, the next day here I am 20 years later, still here.
I remember pre-9/11 National Guard training in New Jersey. It consisted of setting an azimuth, going 200 meters into the woods, and commencing drinking beer.
Pretty
It was
much.
effectively what it was.
The greatest training known to man.
We did a great job on domestic ops type stuff with hurricanes or whatever else, but we were not prepared, nor did we ever think that we were going to do anything else.
Ryan, there was obviously a spark inside you that you would make that move in that moment on 9/11, but you obviously weren't there yet that you wanted to serve. Talk to me about 9/10.
Yeah, so I mean, I was a kid, you know, I was 16, 17 years old, and I was failing every subject in school, practically, and I felt just helpless in life. I didn't care about anything, didn't want to move forward in life, and so I had no trajectory, and so I was just kind of floating in a bubble. It was my bubble. And that's the thing that 9/11 really opened our eyes up to, is how small I was living and how big this world is, and what just affected us. I felt helpless at that point. But when 9/11 actually happened, it gave me that sense of purpose to say, go do something, become a man. I mean, it changed all of our lives to step up. That I can't be helpless anymore, I have to go do something with my life. But before that, I was going nowhere. So 9/11 gave me meaning and purpose to do something for people that I had never met.
Yep.
But, you know, I came back here. This is the beautiful thing, is first time I ever came to New York was 15 years after 9/11. Came to Ground Zero, and I instantly knew that everything I did was worth it.
Yeah.
Amen.
You know, same here. I'd never been to New York until years. 2013 was when I first finally got to come to New York for the first time, and so same.
But Rob, to end with you on this real quick, again, we're talking about the bubble of whether it's the National Guard or freshmen or failing in class. You're a Navy SEAL on missions, and you're still not necessarily thinking Al-Qaeda, radical Islamic terrorism.
No, and like I said, guys were taking down ships smuggling dates. And those are the cool guys in the teams. Dates, like the little things that there's, you know, and we take a date ship down, and we took down a Russian tanker. We were excited because we found a drawer full of steak knives. It's like, these could be weapons. Well, yeah, so anything's a weapon if you're brave enough. But that was it. And there was, you know, we weren't shooting people. Don't get me wrong. Well, the whole I can't talk about what we were doing before 9/11. There was nothing going on. We knew there was nothing going on. 9/10 was another normal day. But it's important, again, not to get lulled into complacency. And I tell people now, make sure you kiss your spouse and kiss your kids every night like it is 9/10, because you don't know what tomorrow's going to bring.
It's a great way to put it. You look over and it personalizes every single moment of that day of 9/11, the people that were lost, and the sacrifice America paid. But then I look at you guys, and I look at the generation of guys and gals that we served with who said, we're going to do something about it. And so I want to talk about what it was like to go to war, what it was like to be at war as a response, America's collective response to what was done to our citizens on that day. Iraq, Ryan, I'll start with you. Iraq, Afghanistan, it was Afghanistan at first, then it was the Iraq War. Things became political. Is it the good war? Is it the bad war? But as a Navy SEAL who's out there taking on radical Islamists, how did you view your combat experience as it pertained to sort of retribution for what happened on 9/11?
So when I joined, I knew that we were going to war. You know, I know that they were already going to be at war by the time that I was there. So it was really exciting for me to actually get into the community, because at the very end of my training, you had guys coming back from their first deployment, combat operators. So you're just getting all this new information that's coming in. And then you show up to your SEAL team after training and everybody's deployed already. Everybody's been to combat. And so you're not learning from, like you said, all the training missions. Now it's legitimately real world stuff.
Now it is train as you fight.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
But again, I was a new guy, so
Sure.
I knew nothing. So, and I'll say I was fearful, you know, to showing up to combat, going to Iraq. My first deployment was to Habni, Iraq in 2005, and I didn't know what to expect. You can train so hard, but until you actually see the show, you have no idea what you're going to do. And so you watch your older teams show you what to do, your experts. And so it was humbling for me, but we get information on what we need to do, and then we go do it. I never ever had to think about justifying what we did. I just knew that we were attacked on 9/11. They murdered over almost 3,000 of our Americans and our people. Retribution was there in the hands of ourselves to go fight, and everybody who was in the military was working collectively for the greater good to make sure that never happened here again. So it wasn't even a thought for me.
Joe, at what point did you realize it's not just going to be a domestic response for the Fighting 69th? We're heading over there.
I think it still took a while, quite honestly. I mean, we got our notification of sourcing, which means we're going to war, I think, in 2003. So we still had a lull time, but they were definitely increasing the training and everything else. And then once we got the notification of sourcing, it was rapid fire, because again, guard-wise, totally different. So we have 680 guys, maybe in an infantry battalion back then, but maybe 300 of them are showing up. So you're piecemealing people together. The biggest mission we had initially was really just team building, getting to know the guy on your left and the guy on your right. So a very, very different feel, very different mission. We did a Fort Hood train up and then NTC rotation before we went to Kuwait. Again, and then it was totally different also, because we didn't have up-armored Humvees. We went over with literally 998 soft-skin Humvees, and you're up-armoring them over there before you drive over to Berm to go over. And then there, it was just a different, the Guard wasn't used to that. We had not normally done it. And when we took casualties, and we took a lot of them, our unit had 19 KIA. It's on the front papers here. I think unlike traditional Army units, the Guard really hit home, because it was, you were seeing it on the front page of the Daily News and the New York Post and all sorts of papers, because they weren't used to it. It just wasn't a normal thing. Everybody was from the same area. So all 680 guys that we deployed with were all New York and Long Island natives, which is
Was
different
there a
than
spirit in that of, this is our chance to get some after what happened to us?
The guys were as motivated as you could get. I mean, the guys absolutely loved the mission and were as motivated, and the brotherhood that we created was no different than an active duty unit, for sure.
Absolutely. Graham, how about you?
So for me, like I said, I'm the youngest one here. So by the time I finally got to the point, it was right around the time of the surge. And so when I went to boot camp and all that stuff, they were literally training us to head out the door. I mean, we all knew that. And so for me, it was less about, I had less of the, let's go get them retribution aspect at that point. And for me, it was more of the, I'm not going to be the guy that doesn't do my part in this thing. Obviously we're going to be there for a while. Obviously we're still fighting. The surge happened because we weren't making progress that we needed to be making. And, I wasn't going to be one of those people that was physically able, because a lot of people don't realize how hard it is to get into the military. And a lot of people view it as this last resort for a lot of people, which is the furthest thing from the truth. And that was my mindset, was I was going to go do my part. I was going to go over there, and because I didn't want to be 70, 80 years old and say that I didn't do anything and that I wasn't there. So that was my thought process for it.
All right, Rob, you basically pulled a trigger on behalf of a nation.
Good job.
No, when you think about I mean, this, unless you guys did something I don't know about, none of our stuff's in the museum here at the 9/11 Memorial.
I teed it up for him. I teed it up for him. Yeah.
I mean, Rob, when you reflect on the opportunity to do what you did on behalf of what was done here, does it sink in fully?
You know, I can close my eyes and see it any time I want to. It does sink in when I come to the museum, because the museum is a living proof of the resilience of this nation and what we can do. And actually, they've got a new exhibit called The Hunt for Bin Laden in there, and it shows a lot of stuff that the intel people found all the way up to the top. And there's interviews with everyone from Secretary Clinton, President Obama. I think it's 6 or 7 Navy SEALs are on the ground. They can show it almost in real time with hearing what it is. That hit home because they did a great job. More of my gear's in there. We got Cairo, the dogs, his vest that he wore on the raid is in there, other stuff from other Navy SEALs. And it is surreal just to be sitting here where the North Tower was and how this is where the war started. And then to have this memorial, they did an excellent job setting it up. And everyone needs to see it too, because coming here, regardless of your political views, which are obviously very far left or right and not both, this will bring you back to what's important. This will bring you back to why we're all here as a nation, not just as a nation, but as a Western civilization. There's 80 plus countries that lost people right here in this 200 yards where we are right now. So yeah, it's incredible. It's humbling, but just an honor to go from watching 9/11 happen on TV to being at the end with that brave team that went in. I was just so proud of my guys going in, but honored to be picked to be a part of it.
Did you ever doubt that, you know, a decade later we would find Bin Laden? I
was convinced he was gone. There was no way we're going to find him. And actually, it's not funny, but I was one of the battlefield interrogators. When we would get on target in Iraq or Afghanistan, I would ask them a question, you know, whose house is this? Who are the men of the house? Blah, blah, blah. And I would say, where's Osama bin Laden? And we both laugh, being the terrorist. It's like, we don't know. But then to meet the smart people of the 3-letter agencies that one day when they came in, people I'd never met, and a woman said, the reason you guys are here is this is as close as we've ever been to Osama bin Laden. And kind of look at my buddies and we're just like, cool, we going now? I'm ready. Wow. But that we were ready because of all the war, all the training, all the adjustments. But yeah, I mean, it was never going to be us. It was going to be the Army, let's be honest. And they picked us for whatever reason, right place, right time. Sometimes it's better to be lucky than good, but great advice I have for people, wherever you are, be there. Yeah. And if you're there, you might get picked.
Absolutely. Do you, real briefly for each, I think, did all of you serve a tour in Iraq at some point? Yeah. Did you view service in Iraq differently than Afghanistan in that it wasn't as directly tied to 9/11, or did you see it as part of the same fight?
Well, I'm probably different from these guys. I only went to Iraq twice, and so for me, no, I viewed it as all part of the same fight. You know, this was about America. This was about doing my duty to America, period, plain and simple, black and white, nothing else to it.
I only ask that because it gets hazy, you know, 19 years later, and people want to look back. I just want to draw on how you felt when you were there.
That's how I felt.
Same with me. So I only also went to Iraq, and it was, for us, it was all the same. It was one fight.
Notice is Al-Qaeda's Al-Qaeda wherever they go, and even though Saddam was a part of 9/11, the foreign fighters that believe in that ideology, that radical Sunni ideology, they're the same whenever you go, and even ISIS, Al-Qaeda, whatever. The difference I notice is fighting the Taliban, because all they know is fighting. And you got a guy that might be 44 years old, thinks he's 19, doesn't know how old he is, but he'll fight in the mountains, and they can run mountains wearing flip-flops. It's insane.
It's actually true.
They will fight. Al-Qaeda guys, they kind of they don't want to fight that bad. They'll hit you, you know, they'll stab you in the back. Taliban will fight you to the death.
These are seasoned fighters.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's all they know, and it's their land. But on that too, all they want is their valleys. Like if we get out of there, they're not coming here.
Do you think it was once described, and anybody can take this, as the long war? You know, is the war over? That we're fighting.
Well, I think the war started when they defeated Alexander the Great and then beat the Soviets, and now we're kind of hanging out there.
Yeah, no, it will always be something else. One day, something else will happen. I mean, you know, war will never be over in some kind of context or whatever it is.
The ideology we're fighting now, like I said with ISIS and Al-Qaeda, it's not going to necessarily be won by carpet bombing. It's got to be won through education. And a lot of things can be solved with education, but nowadays telling the truth gets you in trouble. So that's kind of where we're at.
I don't know anything about that.
Even when we classify the war over, though, we're still going to leave a footprint there, because we leave a footprint everywhere we are. Every war we've been to, we're still there. You know, even though we're not engaged in combat or fighting, or we're just liaising or whatever, we're still going to have a footprint there, so we don't lose ground. You know, so who knows? But I mean, I think we've accomplished a mission. I wanted to say a real quick, short thing that he doesn't know yet. So a couple years ago, we had a guy named Bill Dawson come to Dallas, Texas. He was one of the original members of Class 1 from the NCDU, or Naval Combat Demolition Units. This is the predecessors to the SEAL teams. And I asked him in front of the audience, how does he feel to know that a guy like him, who was the founding father of what today are called the SEAL teams, how does he feel that the SEAL teams, a specific person, killed the most wanted terrorist in history? And it comes from your unit, sir, and he started to cry. So good on you, brother.
I didn't know that. Wow.
Bad. That's awesome.
You made a man cry.
Humbling. That's humbling.
Yeah.
And in Class 1, though, he would call me a new guy.
Yeah, there you go. Yeah.
I was a new guy to someone, but my Buzz class was the last hard class.
Yeah.
And the hardest.
Yeah,
and the hardest
it is,
one.
It is, I mean, without question. Yeah, we finished with two guys. They made us fight it out.
I was the other.
Whoever's alive gets it.
That seems like it may or may not be true.
What's scary is I think he's telling the truth there. And so,
Maybe. Guys, we've talked about 9/10, the day before, the day of. We've talked about our nation's response. But I want to go to 9/12, the day after September 11th, the unity we felt. I'm always drawn back to, I don't know where it would have been exactly here, but George W. Bush on the rubble pile with the bullhorn.
we hear you. The whole nation hears you. Yeah.
And somebody, the people who knocked these buildings down will hear from all of us soon. I mean, we all remember that. So it gives me chills right now.
Yeah.
I can hear you, the rest of the world hears you, and the people who knock these buildings down will hear all of us soon.
We were unified. Today, not so much.
Not so much.
Graham,
yeah.
you're part of a mission to bring us back to the mentality of 9/12. Talk to us about that.
Yeah, well, first of all, I want to say something that probably not a lot of people say. And so 9/11 saved me. And what I mean by that is, you know, I was this kid from a broken home, from middle of nowhere, Mississippi, no clue where my life was headed. And 9/11, as tragic as it was, set so many people on a different path that 9/11, I don't think we realize how much it actually saved so many lives in itself. But 9/12 specifically, in my opinion, is the last moment we've had in a very long time where it didn't matter what color you were, it didn't matter what your sexual preference was, your political preference, nothing. We were Americans. And we had been attacked. It's kind of like your family, right? You can mess with your brother and your sister all you want, but if somebody else does, we got a serious problem. And so that's why we're getting ready to launch 9/12 United. The name speaks for itself. We have a motto, it's live like it's 9/12. I like to say that 1776 is associated with our beginning. I truly, truly believe in my heart that 9/12 is our future and how we can get down the road united together as Americans. Right now, we are more divided, it seems, than we've ever been. A lot of us weren't around during the Civil War and things like that, so it can be argued, are things worse than they've ever been? It's debatable, depending on who you talk to. But what I do know is that the idea is we are Americans. As different as we are today, most of us could probably agree on 70% of things. But there's probably a good 30% of things that we're not going to see eye to eye on. And that's okay. And we've forgotten that it's okay to agree to disagree. And the ultimate goal of this is to be united as Americans. And so that's what 9/12 means to me. That's why 9/12 United has been created. And that's what we're hoping to create, this new, hopefully, you know, calling card to America to come back and unite as Americans. It's okay if we disagree. We're still Americans. We're all in this together. So,
Joe, what did you see from New York those days after 9/11 that you hadn't seen before?
So again, weeks and months later, I saw, a lot of difference. But the day after, we were still fully engaged here, right? So we were still, hoping and praying that we would find a lot more recovered, live, people that were living.
You were
obviously.
in the middle of it.
We were still right in the middle of it. You were still trying to. I had certain guys were searching rooftops for the black box and different parts of the plane that we thought would help us unlead to what exactly happened. Other people were, walking people up, hundreds of feet in the air to try to get their cats or their dogs that they left their apartments for. Some people were trying to get their passports and just get the hell out of here, right? But most of us were engaged in the actual search and recovery piece of this thing. But I will tell you that the overabundance of people that came down to show their gratitude for the people that were working down on the piles was just simply amazing. And the pure exhaustion on the faces of the firemen who were looking for their brothers and the cops who were and the Army guys that were trying to find people that hopefully were still alive to no avail.
Were you here when the president came down?
I
with the
was. I was
bullhorn?
probably 30 feet away.
Really?
Wow.
Did you feel it the way the nation felt that?
So it was an awesome moment for sure. I mean, I don't think anything. I didn't think we needed any one person to try to unite us at that point. I mean, I think we were pretty. At least the people that were working on the ground already were very, very united in one cause, and that was to try to immediately try to see what we could salvage from this big mess that we were in. But certainly, it was good to hear those positive words and definitely motivated us a little bit more on the ground because exhaustion was kicking in probably a little bit at that point.
I gotta believe that, absolutely. Brian, how about you? In what way, you ran to the recruiting station, but what did you see differences in the way your community reacted, came together in response to 9/11?
It was my first time in life that I had seen the pure brilliance of America. The surge of the American pride and our resolve. It made me feel like I was part of New York, Even I lived in Detroit, Michigan.
We were all New Yorkers that day.
And it was an unbelievable feeling to feel like, wow, we're so together. Wow, the power of this. And at that point, I went from being just a shadow walking down the halls to somebody in this country, and then I had a mission. So he gave me, like you, everything in life to move forward. So it was a very, very powerful moment. And I love what you're doing, brother.
Thanks, man.
Yeah.
Thanks. That day was so special. Walmart sold out of American flags. Do you have any idea how hard it is for Walmart to sell out of American flags? Do you have any clue? You couldn't buy an American flag. They were everywhere. Rural America. Like I said, we were all New Yorkers that day, and my hope is that we all remember that we're all Americans still today.
That's
so,
right.
Well, so Rob, I'll throw. I like to throw difficult questions your way. You never know what you're going to get from Rob O'Neill.
Standing.
And then I want all of you to feel free to chime in. Kind of what I said to Graham. We're not united as a country right now. If we want to create unity, how do you do it like 9/12 that doesn't require what happened on 9/11?
That's a hard question because unfortunately that's what needs to happen. That's what does happen because on 9/12, like Graham was saying, they sold out of American flags. American flags were hanging everywhere. No one was offended by the American flag. Cops were heroes. Port Authority, police, so most certainly NYPD, FDNY, these were heroes. These were people looked up to. No one was offended by them. No one would certainly bury an American flag without getting their head handed to them. And the thing was, never forget, never forget. And right here is pretty much the only place now where we'll never forget. Right here where we're standing on this hollow ground. The problem in this country is we keep forgetting to never forget. And that's the issue. And then again, like I mentioned earlier, the truth needs to be told to people. Because we're not teaching our youngsters the right stuff. I mean, I'm not looking forward to, but I'm afraid if we don't come together, there will be a point where in the history books being taught in school, it'll say austere religious scholars conducted deconstruction operation. Yeah. Seriously, because we're not teaching the truth.
I know the headline you're talking about. It was Abu Bakr al-Baghdadi, and was that no? It was
Abu Bakr al-Baghdadi. Yeah.
When he died, the headline was austere religious scholar.
It should have been Delta Force kicked his ass. That's what it should have said, but it won't because that would offend the bad guys.
World is better off. Better
so, I mean,
place.
The truth, people. If you don't learn from the truth, you're doomed to repeat it.
Yeah.
And burying your head in the sand doesn't mean it didn't happen. And America can come back together because I travel quite a bit and most Americans are really good. The problem is the the good ratings are the bad people, and the loudest boos come from the cheapest seats.
Exactly.
And so we're hearing this bad stuff, but when you get out there and meet people, real Americans are the people that start off in Southern California with a convoy, drive through Texas, pick up more trucks, go to Florida to help the people with the hurricane. That's America, and that's what most people are like, and I'm very optimistic about that. But the problem is the loudest voices are teaching us the most crap.
It's a great point.
That's a good point.
I'd like to think that Fox News Channel tries to unteach the crap.
Yeah. Unteach the crap.
That's exactly.
Yeah,
That's
new
to put
motto.
it the
Fox
right
News.
way.
Unteaching the crap.
That might be the new Fair and Balanced.
Yeah, there we go. Yeah.
No, well said.
We try to say less crap.
Yeah. We try to suck
More
less than
America,
everybody
good
else.
stuff. That's certainly what you get from Modern Warriors, and certainly from guys that have been there on the battlefield. Well said. I don't think anybody could necessarily top that. And guys, as we sit here looking at the reflecting pool of the North Tower on this hallowed ground, as each of you has described it, I just want your final reflections on the legacy, or what you draw from. We've talked a lot about it, but is there anything else in particular when you think about that moment, maybe as it pertains to your kids or it pertains to our country, that you would want people to remember?
One of the things that I think about 9/11 that's so important is obviously everything's equally important, but the first Americans to fight Al Qaeda were on Flight 93 that crashed in Pennsylvania.
Yeah,
So Tom Burnett, Mark Bingham, Todd Beamer, guys like that. That plane was on its way to hit the Capitol building, and the coolest thing about that fight they started is they took a vote on do we fight these guys. And the vote is the most American thing you can do, and it was going to a place where they sometimes vote, the Capitol building. And they took a vote to defend America, and they saved that Capitol building, and people need to reflect on those true heroes that died that day on 9/11.
Great point.
I think the biggest thing to me is we have to make sure that we protect the sovereignty of this and everything that happened, this hallowed ground, what 9/11 meant. We're already in it. We see it every day. People are trying to rewrite history. They're trying to get rid of things. They're trying to change what actually happened. There's even talks about not having 9/11 in history books in class because it's too violent for children to learn about. We cannot allow that to happen. This happened. This really happened. Millions upon millions of Americans were affected. Millions of Americans that deployed were affected. This is something that needs to be taught. This is something that needs to be remembered, and it's our duty as the current generation to ensure that we never, ever, ever let people forget, because that's what we're doing, and we need to step it up.
Call you Joe, but you are Lieutenant Colonel Whaley. You're still serving in the Fighting 69th. You're the battalion commander. I've served in the 69th. We actually went to training together many, many years ago, Captain's Career Course. You're still in the fight. You're leading men who could be responding to a future iteration.
Yeah, I mean, I'd say we need to unite like we were 9/12 as a country also. I think it's important if the outside world looked at us as an armed forces, whether you're in the Navy or you're in the Marines or you're in the Army or you're in the Coast Guard, and they look to see all the different nationalities and races we have amongst us. Not once did I carry, or did I help carry one of the 19 guys that died from my unit off and say, you know, was he black, was he Spanish, was he this, was he that? I mean, I think that's important to know that inside the locker room or inside our organization or your unit, there is no race card. There never is. I'm sure these guys could attest to that pretty easily.
There's no politics either. You know, it's the mission, and the mission is to protect America. And again, it goes back to the whole point. None of all of this crap that we're fighting about, because that's what it is, it's crap, every single bit of it. The main point that we always forget is that this is America. We're Americans. That's the point. That's what we should be fighting for. Not who's right, not who's wrong. How do we protect, and how do we save, and how do we continue?
We're certainly
America?
having a fight about it right
We
now,
sure
and
are.
sometimes it feels like, is America good or is America bad? Ryan, any final thoughts here?
I mean, I just be a grateful American. You know, we're one nation under God. It's that simple. And you look at this, kids should be coming here. This should be taught in school, but kids should be coming here. Every school should bring their children here to show them this, because Arlington National Cemetery grew because of this.
Yep.
They need to be going to Arlington. They need to be coming here to Ground Zero. And it is up to every one of us to keep reinforcing. There's just too much content out today where it's easy to forget things. But there are certain things in our life that you cannot forget. It's our generation and it's our time to tell our children, this is what you need to remember, this is why you're an American and why we're still an American, and this is what you're going to tell your children. So,
Changed an entire generation. No, there are moments in our lives where the entire trajectory changes, and it was certainly 9/11 for this group, but for our country as well. Thank you guys so much for sharing your thoughts, and I think this is exactly this is why Fox Nation exists, why Fox News Channel exists, to give that remembrance, to provide that information that maybe we don't get as much of in our culture and our country today. In closing, guys, Graham, I'll start with you. You've done some recruiting. What do you say to young people that are looking at service today?
I think that there is a lack of teaching. I put this all back on parenting. I really do. You know, it's not the younger generation's fault that patriotism is being considered racism. It's not the kids' fault that they believe that things should be given to them. It's not the kids' fault that they believe that the American dream is just something that they're entitled to. I think that we need to, as cliche as it may sound, we need to live like it's 9/12. And we need to remember that all of this, even during the middle of a pandemic, we're still the greatest country in the world, and freedom isn't free. Somebody has to take up the mantle to continue it to be that way, and we need that next generation to stand up and say, you know what, we'll take on that burden this time. You guys have done your job, it's our turn to do it, and then they raise up the next generation that says, okay guys, you did your job, now it's our turn to do it, and everybody needs to shift the weight off their shoulders.
Ryan, you talk about the purpose you felt on that day. Here we are 19 years later. How do you invoke that purpose in the next generation that has to wear the uniform?
things I've been trying to say to my children as they grow older is that, there were men and women that believed so dearly in this country before me that gave their life for it so that I could have this today. And that's what I'm going to reinforce to my children and to all these kids that I work with. We have a lot of kids coming into our charity that want to do internships, and they want to go to the SEALs or the Green Berets or in the military. And so I asked them what their purpose is, why they want to do it, to really find out those answers. And every one of them continues to come back and say, I want to serve my country.
Ryan, mention your charity briefly, because Graham talked a little bit about the 9/12 United. Talk about your charity.
After getting out of the service, I still wanted to do something for our country. I feel like I'm doing more for my country now than I did in service. But we started an organization in 2012 called Sons of the Flag to aid burn survivors in America with treatment. See, burns we call it the bastard child of medicine. Nobody knows about it, nobody thinks about it, and then when you get injured, it's a lifelong injury that you can't fix on your own. So we started this organization up to help one person, and we've grown to 31 states, and we're continually growing, but we revolutionize burn care for all Americans. Sonsoftheflag.org.
Love it. Joe, it's sort of a joke. Hey, did you join for the college money? Why did you get in maybe pre-9/11? Then there was this motivation and surge. Do you still see the residue of that in active guard unit here? Is it different? How do you instill that purpose?
I'll tell you, I see, total studs coming out of Fort Benning and basic training right now. I'll tell you, everybody always says the Corps has or the Army has, and it was tougher. It was tougher when we went through than now. But some of these kids coming out inspire the hell out of me. I'm telling you, that's why I said if we can get America to start looking inside or internally at what we got going on inside our units, we could change the world, because these kids are motivated, they're hungry, and they are super pro-American.
Love it. Rob, you're still doing work to help guys transitioning back as well. Share what you're doing.
Yeah, I started a foundation. It's now called the Special Operators Transition Foundation, SOTF.org. We help special operators get into real careers. We help with the transition. We do the intros. I help veterans get elected, run for Congress. I'm the chairman of SEAL PAC. A couple other things they're all at robertjoneal.com. See what we're into. And
if we had a few more vets in Congress, it might be a better thing?
Yeah, it's a good thing, because regardless of which side of the aisle you're on, veterans will get in a room together and actually come to a middle ground, negotiate with each other, because we actually talk to each other. We all believe in the country as vets, and we want to help make it better. So more vets in Congress, most definitely.
Absolutely. Well, just now the sun has come out.
There it is.
We solved America, obviously, and now here we are. There it is.
Fitting tribute of that day 19 years ago that changed all of our lives. What an honor to be here with you. This truly is hallowed ground. and may we always remember it. And hopefully this Modern Warriors special will remind people to pass it on to the next generation, show to your kids as well what this moment meant. Rob, Ryan, Joe, Graham, thank you very much.
Thank you for having me.
Thanks, Pete.
Being here.
Awesome. Thanks, guys.